The Great Gig in the Sky is the fifth track on The Dark Side of the Moon, the 1973 album by the English progressive rock band Pink Floyd. It features voice instrumental music by Clare Torrey. The song is frequently regarded as one of Richard Wright's greatest achievements. Composition: the song began life as a Richard Wright chord progression, known variously as the Mortality Sequence, or the Religion Song. During 1972 performances of the Dark Side of the Moon song cycle, it was simply an organ instrumental accompanied by spoken word samples from the Bible and snippets of speeches by Malcolm Muggeridge, a British writer known for his conservative religious views. By the time the band came to record the song for Dark Side, the lead instrument had been switched to a piano rather than an organ. Various sound effects were tried for the track, including recordings of NASA astronauts communicating on space missions, but none were satisfactory. Finally, a couple of weeks before the album was due to be finished, the band decided to try having a female singer wail over the music. Clare Torrey's vocals. As the band began casting around for a singer, album engineer Alan Parsons suggested Clare Torrey, a 25-year-old songwriter and session vocalist. Parsons has previously worked with Torrey, and had liked her voice on a compilation album of covers. An accountant from Abbey Road Studios contacted Torrey and tried to arrange a session for the same evening, but she was initially unenthusiastic. Torrey was not a particular fan of Pink Floyd, and she had various other commitments, including, she later admitted, tickets to see Chuck Berry that evening. Eventually, however, a session was scheduled for the following Sunday. The band played the instrumental track to Torrey, and then with very little further direction asked her to improvise a vocal. At first, Torrey struggled to divine what the band wanted, but then she was inspired to pretend that she herself was an instrument. She performed 2 complete takes, the second one more emotional than the first. David Gilmour asked for a third take, but halfway through Torrey stopped, feeling she was getting repetitive and had already done the best she could. The final album track was assembled from all 3 takes. The members of the band were deeply impressed by Torrey's performance, but were so reserved in their outward response that she left under the impression that her vocals would never make the final cut. She only became aware they were used when she saw the album at a local record store, spotted her name in the credits and purchased it. Quotes from those involved: Richard Wright, Roger Waters, Alan Parsons, David Gilmour, Clare Torrey. Chris Thomas, who was brought in to assist Alan Parsons in mixing the album, mentions that they were actually in Mixdown at the time. On the DVD classic albums, Pink Floyd The Making of the Dark Side of the Moon, various members mention that they had this song and weren't quite sure what to do with it. Wright further mentions that when she finished, she was apologetic about her performance even though those present were amazed at her improvisation. Lawsuit: in 2004, Torrey sued Pink Floyd and EMI for songwriting royalties, on the basis that her contribution to Great Gig in the Sky constituted co-authorship with Richard Wright. Originally, she was paid the standard Sunday flat studio rate of £30. In 2005, prior to a hearing in the High Court, an out-of-court settlement was reached. Although the terms of the settlement were not disclosed, all pressings after 2005 list the composition to Richard Wright and Clare Torrey. Spoken parts, at 0:38. At 3:33, faintly. Live performances, an early incarnation of the song, titled The Mortality Sequence, and lacking the vocals later contributed by Clare Torrey, was performed by Pink Floyd throughout 1972. In its final version, The Great Gig in the Sky was performed live from 1973 to 1975, and from 1987 to 1994. During the band's 1974 to 1975 tour, David Gilmour played both pedal steel guitar and the Hammond organ, allowing Richard Wright to concentrate solely on piano. Gilmour's pedal steel for Great Gig was located accordingly beside Wright's Hammond. Starting in 1987, additional touring keyboardist John Caron took over the Hammond parts. Up to 3 singers performed the vocals, each taking different parts of the song. On the 1974 to 75 tour, vocal duties were handled by Vanetta Fields and Carlina Williams, both former members of the Blackberries. On the Delicate Sound of Thunder video, the vocals are shared by Rachel Fury, Durga McBroom and Margaret Taylor. Claire Torrey returned for the Nebworth 90 concert. The 1994 live album Par Eurocent Where Eurocent La Eurocent Za Eurocent E features a version sung by Sam Brown, Durga McBroom and Claudia Fontaine. When the Floyds' manager, Steve Earle, died in 2003, Gilmour, Wright, and Mason played Fat Old Son, and The Great Gig in the Sky at Earle's funeral. Commercial reuse. A short clip of the song was used in a 1974 TV advertisement for Doled Bananas. A re-recorded version was used as the backing music in a UK television advertisement for the analgesic Nurofen in 1990. The band was not involved in this version, but Claire Torrey again did the vocal with Neil Conti on drums and Lady Knund on bass. Rick wrote that music. He remade it for them. It's down to the writer. If my name had been on that track too, it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't do it. But that's Rick's business. I didn't approve of it, but I have no control over it. Cover versions. On the Easy Star All Stars dub side of the Moon album, there are two different dub music versions of the track, The Great Gig in the Sky, and Great Dub in the Sky. An orchestrated version, arranged by Jazz Coleman and performed by the London Philharmonic Orchestra conducted by Peter Scholes, appears on the 1995 instrumental album Us and Them, Symphonic Pink Floyd. Fish also does a live cover on track 6 of Disc 3 of Live Fish Volume 7. Seattle local band The Squirrels did a full-length parody tribute of The Dark Side of the Moon in 1999 entitled The Not So Bright Side of the Moon. Their version of Great Gig has vocalist Baby Chivas singing after guitarist Joey Klein says sorry, the girl didn't show up. The Flaming Lips have covered the song in their 2009 remake of The Dark Side of the Moon, with singer Peaches performing Claire Torrey's vocal segment of the track and Henry Rollins recreating the original interview samples. In their official bootlegs, covers series, progressive metal band, Dream Theater, performed this song, as part of their full-length cover version of the entire album, with Teresa Thomason taking over vocal duties. Personnel: Richard Wright a Euro piano, Hammond organ, David Gilmour a Euro pedal steel guitar, Roger Waters a Euro bass, Nick Mason a Euro drums, percussion, with Claire Torrey a Euro vocals. References, footnotes. Citations. Bibliography. External links, full lyrics of this song at Metro Lyrics.